all of you to our joint meeting tonight between the Budget and Education Committee. I just want to give you a few parameters of where we're at tonight and what we're doing and kind of a forecast of where we're going. Tonight, we put these two meetings together with the Budget and the Education Committee together because normally what happens is the superintendents come in and they give they'll give their presentation to Education, and then right after that, they'll give it to Budget. So we thought there was no sense in them spending time with both. We'll just put them both together so they make one presentation to cover everything. This same presentation, I believe, was given to the Board of Education on the 12th of this month, and so we did not invite them since they've already heard it, but if they're in the audience, we thank you for being here tonight. Once I finish what I'm saying here, I'm going to give it back to Commissioner Stafford, and she will open up the Education Committee. Mr. Mayor Jennings said the minutes are coming. They're not here now, so you can wait and do those at the end if you'd like to. But open that meeting up and gets that committee started. And then we'll turn it over to Mr. Justice, which will open up the Budget Committee. And we'll ask Mr. Justice to kind of lead the meeting from here forward, since he is the Budget Chairman, of just asking people to make the presentation, and we'll go from there. If you want to talk tonight, then you need to be recognized by one of the chairmen to speak of these two committees. Tonight's meeting will simply be to hear the GP budget from Education, their needs list, and the bids for the new school. As with committees before, on the budget side, we just accept the needs, we accept the budgets, and we accept the bids. We will ask at the end of this meeting if Education wants to make a recommendation of any kind. They can, because they won't meet again. As you know, we will meet on Thursday night in here where Aaron will give the overall outlook of our budget, of where it's at, and options with Mr. McAnulty on funding the schools. That will be done on Thursday night. Again, no decisions will be made at that time. And then we'll be back in here on August the 6th, which will be our first, which is a Monday night, which will be our budget meeting where we will start and making decisions. We'll go Monday the 6th, Tuesday the 7th, Wednesday the 8th if we need to. So we'll go 3 nights in a row if we have to. On the 9th, which is our regular budget night, then we'll have things finalized, and Mr. Maynard will be able to take our budget from that time and publicize it to 10 days. That has to be done by law. And then on August the 20th, the public is allowed, after a 10-day view of the budget, will be allowed to come in here at 6 o'clock before our 7 o'clock meeting and voice any concerns or have any comments, and that's where public comment comes in. I believe that this covers almost everything, except we do have probably 3 or 4 committees that have not presented the budget yet, that didn't come that first time that we met, Mr. Justice, and so they'll be here on the night of the 6th. We'll hear them first before we start, and we'll get those budgets knocked out of the way. Other than that, I don't believe I have anything else. Do I have any questions about how we're going tonight before I turn it over to Commissioner Stafford? Seeing no questions, Commissioner Stafford, I'll let you open your meeting up and then turn it over to Mr. Justice.
Yes, sir. I'd like to open up the Education Committee meeting. At this time, we don't have any thing to bring forth until after all the comments are made. I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Mike Justice.
I guess the minutes we can do Thursday, right?
Yeah, I brought the wrong file.
I do it every day, but
Yeah,
we can do them Thursday, so I guess
It's
we'll
on its
turn it over to Dr. Wright and Mickey. If anybody has any questions, like I say, just, if you would, just be recognized so it's not a madhouse. And I guess at the end of the meeting, we should have like a period for the public. We failed to do that last time, that was my fault.
We can do that towards the end. That way, if they have questions, they can ask. If you want. No problem. Dr. Wright?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And what we're going to do tonight, just so that there's more of a fluid flow of information being presented and provided to you, as much as what we did in front of the Board of Education. And so with that, I'm going to ask that Mr. Hall take us through the whole process as far as looking at the bid process for proposed new high school, or the assessment, and also the 2019 school budget. So with that, Mr. Hall, you can start the process for us.
First thing we want to start with tonight was the bids on the high school. We'll go with this sort of the way we did with the board. A couple of things before we get there. We're going to cover some things before we get to the bid, just as a, sort of for information purposes, and we did this with the Board of Education. One of the things Dr. Wright's handing out right now, there's some information flying around about capacity numbers, and what we did is we updated these for the Board of Education. We've reviewed some information that's out there that everybody's posting in different places, and part of that sheet has Gladeville Middle School on it, showing 1,500 capacity, but no kids. It's not even open yet. So when you back that off, you get to 3,200. And then when you back off our current enrollment, which the enrollment on that sheet's 18,046, and we're about 18,400 when we ended the year, get you back to these numbers that you have in front of you right now. The numbers in the K-8 section have not been updated for growth until we get to our first week of school. The 9 through 12 numbers are updated based on registration numbers. And those numbers change daily. We talked to Ms. Leanne Rainey today, Mount Judah High School principal, and she had 47 people waiting in guidance to finish registering on top of 2,233 kids, and she had a line out the door, she said. So those numbers will change greatly for that particular school because we had a meeting with her this morning and just wanted to update you on that. If you look at these numbers, they're broken down 3 different ways. You have elementary schools. As you know, we've completed several renovations in a brand-new school this past 18 months. Thanks to your help, we had a need on the elementary level, and you'll see there's roughly 2,750 seats on the K-8 level there. But that's because of everyone's help and input in making additions and corrections to certain facilities in a brand-new elementary school. So we've addressed that level. The second level is your 6 through 8 schools. We have 3 of those. You'll see in those numbers there we were down 136 capacity-wise. Would have been higher with that, but Watertown Elementary does have some capacity. Watertown Middle. Well, you've addressed that situation by giving us Gladeville Middle School, which we appreciate, and the 6 through 8 schools, that those 2 big middle schools, which is primarily in the top 5 in the state almost growth-wise, will be relieved when we open next summer. So we've addressed level 2. And then when you move to level 3, which is the 9 through 12 numbers, you'll see that it shows a number of, I think it says 255 on it. Most of that is at Watertown High School, and we know that. 155, I'm sorry. So we know that. So that brings us to the point of where we are for a new school, for our high school. Several things we wanted to address before I get into the numbers with you. And a lot of what I'm covering is on our website. It's under the tab for middle schools and high schools. You'll see that. A lot of these drawings that are up here to my left are also on our website if you want to pull up a copy of those and look at them. One of the big questions we get is about where we are and why we selected this site. If you remember, we gave you all a thick packet of information that scored different sites within our review of properties for a new high school. We did an RFP process and we asked people to submit their properties to us. We didn't go look for properties because we always get criticized for that because we're picking somebody's property. We asked properties to be brought to us. So those properties were looked at in different ways. And they're on that scoring sheet. Again, it's on our website. If you don't have a copy of it, just go get that. And you'll see that the site we selected was selected because it ranked out the highest, but it is also in the middle of our kids. The map to my furthest to the left is what we call a hot map. As of March 22nd, that's every 9th through 12th grader in Wilson County. If we'd had the school on March 22nd, we would have opened it up with 1,548 kids. The growth I mentioned when I opened up from Ms. Rainey is not coming from 109 or Providence. It's coming from the northwest corner of the county. So everybody needs to understand that. And that's why we wanted this school in this location to pick that up. We have a very good professional design team that works with us on selecting a site. They're not going to put their reputation on selecting or telling us we can build on something when we can't. There's been a lot of rumors going around about a graveyard that's been on this site, and everybody knew about it. When we first found the property, we had a neighbor call me and ask me if I would come and meet them and walk, thinking there might be a possibility of a cemetery on this plot of land. So I met them down there one Sunday afternoon, and we walked and found it. Then I called our design team, and I called the owner. And I said, is there a cemetery on this property? The owner didn't know anything about it, and so in our due diligence part, he had to hire this company that you'll see the Cypress letter, which is on our website. We found the cemetery, and it has never been registered in the state of Tennessee. Now it is a registered cemetery in the state of Tennessee because we did that through our due diligence part. So it wasn't that somebody wasn't building on this property because there was a cemetery on it. Nobody even knew it was there until we started doing our due diligence part. The site is, we've heard different things about why the site acreage changed. We own two pieces of property down there. We bought this property, which was 64 acres. And then we have W.A. Wright, which is 20 acres. If you remember, the 5 acres was going to stay with the Cypress family, which is along Lebanon Road. And then we combined the parcels. When you own two parcels next to each other, you have the right to combine them. So that's why it went from 59 acres to 79 acres, because the Board of Education owns all the property. It didn't need to be two parcels. It's also come up that we're taking property from W.A. Wright. If you've ever been to W.A. Wright, the property that we're using, they couldn't use anyway because it was all grown up, never had been cleared for use. So all we're doing is helping them clean up their site, plus we're also doubling their parking on W.A. Wright Elementary site when we do this project. That's a very important thing to realize. The other thing is it does have blue line streams on it, but every one of our high school sites today have blue line streams on it. Every one of them. Watertown High School, Lebanon High School, Mount Juliet High School, and Wilson Central has one too. It's just everybody doesn't see it as much because it's on the far side of the football field, down below the grade where the football field was filled in with. So we deal with those kinds of things all the time from a site standpoint. But again, we didn't make it just haphazard decision to look at this when it was brought to the board. A lot of due diligence and everything went in. Site plans change all the time, as you know. Most of you have sat in on the Planning Commission for a long time. Those change all the time as you go through the planning staff and you answer their questions or they tell you to do something. So we've been accused of things changing at the last minute. That's just a process you go through. It goes through with every building. We have put more information out about this site and this project publicly than we ever have on any project since I've been here. Maybe that's a bad thing because everybody's trying to rip it apart. But just so you know, everything I'm talking about is on our website. It's there for anybody that wants to review it and wants to look at it. So with those things, has anybody got any questions on that before I go forward? Is that okay to ask a question now? Okay, I'll keep it on for the end. Thank Chairman, Commissioner Justice's opinion here. If you open up your packet for the bids, I'm going to go through the bid process numbers, just like we did with our board. We had 4 bids on this project from the general contracting standpoint. Those will be on the last packet, the last sheet of your packet. The bids came in anywhere from $86,703 to $101,510, $101,510,000. That's just the construction part. Again, there's been a lot of confusion and a lot of people making some comments that were not informed of what our $110 million number. Ever since we brought that number to you, we told you 80 million of that was construction and the rest of it was for design work, furniture, fixture, and equipment, and things like that that go along with the project. So the board has looked at these numbers and approved them pending funding of the project by the county commission. So the contract is $86,703,199. That's just the construction project. The rest of it was the difference between that number and getting to our estimate of $110 million. We have design fee money in there. The next 3 line items, we had savings on our ATC project, which is our administrative and training complex or Harding Drive project, of $51,405.29. We had savings on our elementary middle school projects, not the Glayville Middle School project because we're still doing that, $48,049.54. When we did our when we bought our land, we had savings there of $7,117.07. I have to have your permission to direct that toward this project if you all choose to do that. So I made that note there. We have civil engineering fees, fire marshal fees, West Wilson Utility District fees, roofing materials, low voltage, and low voltage is data cabling, cameras, intercoms, phones, those kinds of items like that, along with interior door locks. Our technology is file servers, switches, and devices for the students and the staff. Furniture, CTE equipment. Mr. Moss met with all the different CTE areas that would be in a comprehensive high school, developed a list for me for that. Science equipment, the science department equipment. Again, we met with all the science teachers and came up with that number for their equipment that they need. Social studies, math, ELA, art, and theater. Again, we met with those departments, came up with that number. Athletic equipment, we met with all the different coaches of the different groups that would be in a comprehensive high school. And one of the things to remember on that, this is a brand-new school, so we're not moving people or moving things, we're moving students. But this is a brand-new school, brand-new everything. Library equipment, that really should say library books. That's the value of the library collection at Mount Juliet High School. The security system is what if you walk into a library, sometimes you'll see two panels on the left and right. When you walk through them, they sort of buzz. That keeps our books from walking away. Textbooks, again, that's the value of the textbooks sitting at Mount Juliet High School today. Band and chorus, we met with the band and choral departments to come up with that number for our band program and a chorus department. Miscellaneous equipment, with a project this size, this number's here just in case we missed something. And hopefully we didn't, but it's just a very big project. Things have changed over the next 2 years. So the next line is we do have an agreement with the city of Mount Juliet to buy 3 acres of this site, which is on the west side of the new road we're building, which is currently under construction. And we're asking for that to be applied to this project. That brings us down to a total of $106,518,420.10 that we're looking at for a comprehensive high school to help relieve Mount Juliet High School, Wilson Central, and Lebanon High School. The asterisks at the top, the first asterisk by the design fees, this body was very good to us in giving us some cash flow money for the design work of $1,550,000, but per your resolution, when the bonds were issued, you're going to reimburse the fund you gave us that money from. So that's what the first asterisk is about. The double asterisk is telling you that with or without this project, we have these bills that we will have to pay. The balance of the design fees, the civil fees, state fire marshal fees, and the funds to reimburse. And Aaron, I should have called you on this, but I think that came out of the sales tax fund. If it didn't, I've got the wrong fund. Was it sales tax fund? Okay. So that's by your resolution, you were going to reimburse that money. So that's a total of $4,764,394. We've already bought the land, which was $4,225,251.76. And the road and design work for they're calling it Benton Douglas North Green Hill Extension, is $2,293,264.48. So with the project, whether it's funded or not, we have $11,282,910.24 for this project that we've got invested in it. I did make a note beside the road and design work that the board, we get BEP growth payments. We don't know what that is usually till November or December, but when that number came in, they did approve putting $720,000 toward the road project to finish that and make sure we got the initial road in for the project. And that was also part of our land contract with the Cypresses to have that road completed as well. The third sheet behind my memo is the second sheet behind my memo. We gave you the base bid. We gave you the alternates that make up the $86,703,199. All the buildings together is 420,042 square feet. And that comes down to a cost of $206.42 per square foot. Most of the numbers you've heard going around is for school construction right now in Middle Tennessee are above this number. So we got a favorable number. I can tell you the first number we opened up was the 101 million, And I looked at Dr. Wright and I said, this is not good. But the last number came in at 86 million. So the 206.42, if you remember, we told you thought we would come in around $200 a square foot. We were pretty close on our original estimate of that, and it came in at 206.42. So do you want me to go on through the other three items or go piece by piece? Keep going on? Okay. We'll go to the budget next. We'll do a little bit of the same thing on the budget. Again, different things are being said, so we're going to take the opportunity to clarify a few things. If you've got something you can write with, if you want to follow these numbers, let me know. If I talk too fast, I'll repeat them. The average classroom salary for teachers, and some of you got this by email because Mr. Bush asked us for it, so I'm just repeating some of the things we gave out. Our average classroom salary in 16-17 was $48,049. In 15-16, it was $45,624.
Slow down and repeat those again.
You have to stop me because I talk quick. $48,049 in 16-17. $45,624 in 15-16. The difference is $2,425. Average increase in salaries from 15-16 to 16-17. If you multiply that times 1,150 classroom teachers, you'll get $2,788,750. That's not all my cost. You have to add retirement, Social Security, Medicare on top of that. So you multiply that number times 1.1669. That would give you $3,254,192.38. Now write this number down. This number is $312,339. You take your budget document, that's what the penny for the general purpose school fund, our portion was without the special school district in 16-17. If you multiply that times 8, you'll get $2,498,712. You will see that we invested almost $750,000 more in teacher salaries than the 8 cents that has been quoted went toward the administrative and training complex. It did not. It went to our teachers, just like you asked us to do that. Actually, we put in more than the 8 cents for that purpose. Second thing is, this probably goes more along with the building program, but just because we've heard this too, that we've heard different numbers that went toward the administrative and training complex. Again, we're just trying to clarify a few things, so please be patient with me. The only money that this body put toward the administrative and training complex was a $14.5 million bond, plus $300,000 that you all helped us with to finish out the portion for the election commission, so they would have about 9,000 square feet of storage, because you all needed to help them with that too. The rest of the money came from two sources. We had a reserve from the fiscal year 15-16 budget of $2.5 million. Not 16-17, 15-16, the year before the tax increase. We also get our growth money for BEP once the state determines what our growth number is for student enrollment of $1,281,000. Those two numbers, and if you want to check your notes, you approved Budget Amendment 2017-02 to help us complete the administrative and training complex along with the funds you had that came from our sources of funds, not the 8-cent tax increase that went toward the teacher pay raise. Again, I wanted to clarify that with you. Then the other one that we've heard, just to clarify before I get into the budget, is we've heard this, that wondered how all of a sudden money appeared for bus driver pay. Bus driver pay, as you know, we've had a problem with bus drivers up through Christmas of last year, and we were all concerned about that throughout the county. The board wanted to do something with that right out of the gate on August the 1st, but we have to take care of the classrooms first. So we had a set number of teachers in our budget to try to meet growth, and we told the board that give us time to get our classes filled first, and if we have anything left over, then we would bring back a recommendation, not only to the board, but to you all. So if you approved Budget Amendment 2018-01 to move money from teachers into bus driver line items so we could give bus drivers a really good pay raise. It was about 17% overall. And that, again, that was Budget Amendment 2018-01. So it wasn't found money, it wasn't hidden money. It's money that we didn't have new teachers. We didn't need those new teachers, so we moved it for that purpose. When we put a budget together, the first thing I do is I always look at the existing staff, and I have to plan on them working every day of the year. I'm sure Aaron does the same thing, or he tries to give guidance to department heads to do that. You have to plan as if everybody works every day, all the time. Now, we know that's not going to happen. You know, I know that I've got 30 teachers next year between now and Christmas, that we will have 30 new increase in population in Wilson County because they're expecting babies in the next little bit. If they don't have leave, they go on leave without pay. But I have to put a substitute or an intern teacher in their place. That's not hidden money. It's just money that got changed because somebody was on leave without pay. Those things are going to happen to us all the time. So you budget your expenditures on the worst side, trying to make sure you got everything covered. And I'll make one comment because I was an auditor at the time, and this has been brought up too, about when the school system had some problems in 89, 90. There's not a person that sits at this county commission seat that was here then. And to my knowledge, the only person in the room that was here when that occurred was Mike Jennings, and he had only been here maybe 2 years, if I remember his story correctly, when Mr. Laster hit him up about that.
9 months.
9 months, I'm sorry. I thought it was 2 years. I'm not going to put the school district or this county in that situation, if at all possible. I promise you that. That was a commitment that I had to make to the board before they hired me. Again, I don't know why things are going back 28, 29 years ago, because nobody in this body or the board had anything to do with it at that time. But it is going around. But just so you know, we're going to plan our budget that way, as if everybody worked every day, and be as conservative as we can with that. But I got to make sure I'm going to meet payroll for all of our folks and make sure they get paid correctly. That's the one thing you learn in budgeting. You don't mess with people's payroll. You get that right. So going through, you have a memo from us that summarizes what I'm going to go through the individual sheets with you with as far as the budget's concerned. One thing I want to explain to you is as we're going through these numbers, the 16-17 fiscal year column is audited numbers from the comptroller's office, okay? The 17-18 column is our per record numbers.
In layman's term, what do you mean, Mr. Hall?
Well, in our per record numbers, means we've closed our books. You've heard Aaron say that before. It means we've closed our books. It is not our budget that you adopted last year. It's our actual numbers after we closed our books. We closed our books, I think it was July 3rd. Might have been on the end of the 4th, but we closed our books on July the 3rd, so we were able to put these numbers in here for you. But the memo is going to summarize what I'm going to talk about as we go sheet by sheet through the budget, if that's okay with the Commissioner Justice and Stafford. So I wanted to explain that because, again, our budget's up about $6.6 million from last year's budget. Now, if you compare these two columns, it looks more than that. But again, that extra money from the budget to the actual expenditures wrote into fund balance, which is, you'll see at the end of the presentation when we get through there. What we have done is we've separated on page 1 of the general purpose school fund budget, we separated out what I anticipate our growth portion is for the general purpose school fund. That might change a little bit. I don't know if everything's been finalized on the penny yet. But I showed that as a separate line item because you all asked me not to show it in the top line item, so I'm showing that separately. But we need that to make this budget work and meet the test. And the county commission has been great to the school district as far as whatever the pennies were, we have always been able to get our growth monies, and we appreciate that. So that's a separate line item. Sales tax is up, I've estimated it, right now, sales tax is doing about 5% growth for us a year. So I've estimated that at 5%. The state dollars are up from BEP, and we've also went ahead and budgeted our growth money inside that number as well. So the total revenues for the general purpose school fund is $144,564,671. I do want to go back and just say two things in the state portion. You'll see a Read to Be Ready grant and a Safe Schools grant that's in that revenue section for the first time. That was over in school federal projects. If the education budget members remember, when you approved that, we told you we were moving that over to the general purpose school fund. And you've also heard some things about the governor's one-time money for safety. $483,000 of that $553,000 is his one-time money, and I'll show you where that's over on the expenditure side of the budget. So we're going through right now doing our needs assessment in order to get the governor's one-time Safe Schools money. On page 4 is regular instruction. Throughout this budget, our teacher pay plan is in this budget, plus each teacher is getting $180 on top of the pay plan. That equates to 2% more money for teacher salaries in this budget compared to last year. The support pay plan, we instituted a new support pay plan 4 years ago. This coming year will be the 4th and final year of implementation of that. So that's throughout the budget when you see either a teacher line item or a support pay plan line item. We have 15 new teachers in here in this section for elementary and high schools. 2 new teacher assistants, that's at Carroll Oakland and Southside. When I get to another section, they were sharing a guidance counselor. They made the decision that they could get more from a teacher assistant than trying to share people going back and forth. So they gave up a guidance counselor to get a teaching assistant at each school. We taught 2 weeks of driver's ed program, the classroom portion in our wellness program under a contract. Those folks are having trouble getting part-time people. As you know, the economy is really good right now, so we had to do away with that because they were having trouble staffing that. Our Safe Schools grant, our STAR, we use our Safe School grants to pay for STARS. STARS is a counseling program that supplements our counselors, and then also if we have an unfortunate situation, they're very good about bringing people in to deal with either the kids or the staff or both, depending on what the situation is. Textbooks has a decrease in here of $200,000. ADM, anything that's in parentheses that says ADM, the school district sends money to the schools based on growth. And so those are up because the growth numbers, because the enrollment's up from one year to the other. And then the Read to Be Ready grant is in this section of the budget. And then Achieve 3000, last year was a pilot program in our district, and this year it's going down to 2nd grade, and that's an assessment program. And if you have a question about that, I will ask Dr. Wright to explain that one to you.
We'll hold all the questions to the end. Okay.
On the alternative school, which is page 5, is our what we call our MAP Academy. When we got into the administrative and training complex, the building we were in on Stumpy Lane, we have a MAP A building now, which is grades 9 through 12. And we moved the middle school students over to our old office, which is now called MAP B. MAP B is used for the middle school kids, but it is also where we have our hearings when our students make an appeal of their discipline out in the schools, then they have their hearings in the old boardroom. And it also gives the principal there a chance to have a place to have group meetings inside a facility at that particular building. And to do that, he needed another teacher at MAP. Special ed, the new things in this particular section of the budget are 4 new teachers for caseloads and 4 new teacher assistants for caseloads. This area will be a need that we have going forward, and it will continually grow. If you remember in our capital outlay plan, one of the things we ask you all to look at in the future is a special needs school. And we have a lot of kids getting identified earlier, but they're also getting identified with some things that are more aggressive earlier in life now. And so that's just going to be an issue we have to deal with. And if you look at school safety, they will tell you there's a lot of mental issues that we need to be dealing with, and that facility would also help us do that as well. So this is just a growing concern, not only for us as a district, but for our current staff, but we also have to take care of our kids. If we can't meet the needs of our kids, then we have to contract that out with another group that can meet the needs of that particular child when we think we can take care of them here if we had a facility like that. As well as 504s. Page 7 is career and technical education. For those of us that's been around for a while, the old vocational program has changed its name to career and technical education. There are 2 new teachers here for that program. On page 8, student attendance and health services, there is not anything new in here or new positions in this section of the budget. Guidance personnel on page 9. Wanted to explain this one because there are 3 new guidance counselors in here for the high schools. But we, as I mentioned to you earlier, Carroll Oakland and Southside gave up a guidance position to get 2 teacher assistants. Each one of the high schools went into their course offerings and asked to give up a teaching position to offer another counselor to meet caseloads for 2,000 kids, or 2,000 or more kids, depending on which school they're in. The increase in line item 322 is for a program called TE21. And again, that's an assessment program that you can assess kids at the beginning, at the middle, and the end and see what kind of progress they're making. That's an in-house assessment that we use to make sure we're teaching our standards the way we need to. On page 10, there's not anything new here. I did make a point to point out to the board. And again, if you go back to that first budget amendment that I told you about on the administrative and training complex, for the last 3 years, the retirement line item line item 299 is 0. Right now, our insurance fund is doing really well, which just means we're putting money in, more money in than our claims going out. And so we have not had to use that for our insurance program, but it has been used to help balance the budget from that perspective. Page 11. We have 4 new assessment positions here, again, for increased caseloads in special education. And that's in different arenas. That's whether it's a special ed IEP meeting, special ed ADA issue, a special ed 504 issue, and I don't know what other names might be out there. Mr. Jennings might can help me with that. But so a lot of this is just a growing area that we're going to be dealing with for future years. As those loads increase, we have to have the staff to handle that. Page 12. The only thing new on page 12 is in the technology area. We have different softwares, whether it's student management, our Follett library software, financial packages, HR packages, our network software. That's up about $100,000. On page 13, there's nothing new here, except I do want to make a note for the record that by law, we have to say if any groups the board belong to or the director belong to, such as NSBA, TSBA, or TOS, Tennessee Organization of School Superintendents, if they lobby on behalf of the board or the director, we have to make a note of that. So I'd like for that to be, Mike, if you don't mind, be read into the record that that's on page 13 of our budget document to comply with that law. Office of the Superintendent, again, there's not anything new on this particular page for Dr. Wright's office. Under the office, the principal on page 15, we're opening Glayville Middle next summer. And so we have a principal, assistant principal, secretary, and bookkeeper to start January 1st. So in order for them to plan, organize, and be ready when the teachers come in, and also schedule and everything that goes along with that. That's in this section. And then Watertown High School, there's a new AP in here for Watertown High School, but he gave up a teaching position to get that position. So that was a decision that Mr. Luttrell made at Watertown. He did that instead of a guidance counselor. He felt like he needed an assistant principal more than a guidance counselor. Page 16. The main things we want to point out here is on the bottom, the last line item says TBI background checks. There's a new law that was passed that anybody that we have to start doing background checks on everybody every 5 years. There's a lot of folks in our district, anybody employed probably prior to 97, probably have not been background checked because that's when it started. So with everything going on recently in different school settings, we have to start doing that every 5 years. The state is working on a system called Raptor, but it's not up and ready yet. So we're going to have to do that on our own to comply with the law. So our first target is to we're hoping to try to get 1,000 people through the process this year on top of all the new hires to start complying with that law.
And that's a requirement for every district in the state, that there was no fiscal assistance from the state to help districts.
The other thing I wanted to point out there is 72-510-119. The board approved 2 positions for this department last year, but we didn't get them hired till May. So there's 2 people in here for a full year in that line item. Page 17, the increases here are due to increase in our property and casualty insurance because we've added so many buildings and so many square feet this previous year, and the custodial's up for the same reason because we've added square feet to those contracts for a full year. Page 18, no big change there, except I would like to point out line item 799, the last line there. That's where we rented portables from, and you'll notice it has gone to 0 because we do not have portables anymore. And we appreciate your help in doing that. On page 19 is transportation. We've had more drivers earn medical insurance because of their hours. And then we have 1 new mechanic to handle growth because one thing that happened to us last year is we were able to keep more people behind the wheel, which gave the mechanics more opportunities. I know Commissioner Scruggs is a mechanic, gave the mechanics more opportunities to fix things. So we need a mechanic there for growth. Would like you to notice that with your help, and look at the 16-17 column, we spent $7.6 million in transportation. And we're estimating to spend 10.4 next year, or this year now. And you'll notice most of that is in the bus driver line item. And for the first time since I can remember, the spring was a lot more calmer than it usually has been in the past because we had people behind the wheel. I hope phone calls to you all were not as great as they have been in the past, but I mean, we'll get the normal stuff, 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late, or something like that, but it wasn't the routes down when you come to pick my kid up and those kinds of things. So transportation did a really good job with that, and I'll knock on wood if school started today, we've got our routes covered at the start of school year, but everybody's hiring, so we lost 3 last week. So just keep Jerry Partlow in your prayers that he keeps people hired. Page 20 is anything in parentheses that says ABE. That's our GED program. And if you remember 3 years ago, with your help, that used to be a grant. We brought that in-house because the state was going to mess with the program, and we have one of the best GED programs in the state of Tennessee, and we didn't want that hurt. And with your help, we were able to maintain that. Also, Youth Links is a grant that comes from the Metro government. The grant runs through Metro. We just get the benefit of it. So that's a 100% reimbursement grant for Youth Links. On page 21, the new thing here is if you look at 76-100-799 and in parentheses it says Safe Schools Grant, that's where the $483,000 in one-time money is that we mentioned earlier on the revenue side. And then the bottom part of that is just the areas where we pay, with your help, you'll help us approve 2 energy efficient management projects, and we pay those back through a bond and through a lease. And so those are paid back through savings of the utilities. On page 22, what I wanted to review on this sheet, if you look at the bottom of the sheet, I give you a breakdown of what our reserves are and what our fund balance is. I want you to pay a note that the board and the city of Lebanon worked out an agreement. We had an agreement on mixed drink back taxes to be paid back. And instead of them charging us sewer access fees and other fees, the board and the city of Lebanon worked out agreement where that money, instead of us paying them and them turning around paying us back, it was just agreed to go. So you'll see that go from $471,259 down to zero. We couldn't account on that money until we got it anyway. So it was I think it was a good partnership with the city of Lebanon as well as the board to do that. We still do have some clerk and master back tax collections that are still being prorated over 5 more years. So that's what those numbers are that says anything with the Lebanon Special School District. And so with this budget, the way it is right now, we're estimating our fund balance right now at $4.5 million. And we're estimating using $4,608,000 of the current fund balance that ended June 30th of 2018 to balance the budget out. And this budget, as presented, would meet, as long as we get our growth money, would meet state test for maintenance of effort and the fund balance test with the State of Tennessee Department of Education. Can we do needs or wait?
Let's do them all in one.
Okay. All right, the last sheet in your packet should have been needs assessment. On needs assessment, what is listed here is the board voted in May for a 12.5% raise for classroom teachers. So you have that amount of money. If you want to know what a 1% is, if you'll just divide that by 12.5, that will give you that. It should come out to around $751,000. Amount needed to cover non-recurring expenses, that's just where we used our fund balance for recurring items, and we're telling you if it would be great if we had that back so we would be closer to a balanced budget as far as revenues equal and expenditures. We need 10 new routes for growth for buses, and those are mainly in the big new subdivisions, the densely populated subdivisions. Those give our transportation department some very big issues because we can run anywhere from 3 or 4 buses just to pick up one neighborhood in some places. Our digital transformation plan, that's in our capital outlay plan, but it's also on this sheet. And our digital convert, that encompasses a lot of things. Some people's got hung up on the fact that that just encompasses handing out a device out to every kid. It's a lot bigger than that. This also covers anything electronically that works in our school district. This covers it from the standpoint of buzz-in systems, door locks that work with badges, video cameras, intercoms, phones, network gear, file servers, bandwidth, whether that's increased or whatever needs to happen. And it also covers devices for every student and staff in here, but it also has staff in here to cover from an engineering standpoint. You need technicians, you need network engineers, you need webmasters, you need instructional technology specialists to help everybody understand how to use this information and also how to implement it in the classroom. So it's a very aggressive program that meets the needs of our district from a standpoint of our students and our staff. And a copy of that is in your capital outlay plan. Summer roofing program, it's been a while since we've done some roofing projects. We need to start that back up with the big one coming up that's about to go out of warranty is Wilson Central. Then like our office on Stumpy Lane and a few of the additions that's been done over the years, a lot of them are now out of warranty, so we need to very seriously look at another roofing program to start within the county. The board challenged us to come up with an idea. We have a lot of routes that are 90 minutes long in our county, and the board challenged us to give them a number that would get that down to an hour. Now, when I say that, this number is based on the enrollment at the end of May. It has nothing to do with what's happened since May, so I want you to take that into account. Based on what transportation has told me, we need 33 new routes to do that, which is 33 new drivers, but we need 19 buses to do that. So you'll see the cost of the routes and you'll see the cost of the bus buses to do that. Buses take us 6 to 7 to 8 months to get here. They're not sitting around on a car lot like a car. So they build them as you order them. So even if we did this, this is probably a 1920 deal by the time we got it implemented.
We're still not sure what the legislation on new buses.
Correct.
Seatbelt requirements and what that would mean as well.
The last item on here doesn't have a cost figure on it yet, but just to remind everybody, we will be opening a new school next year. It'll come online with full utilities, custodial services, insurance, maintenance care, lawn care, support.
I'd like to ask a question. New laws for the seatbelts that are coming, if they come up with that law and that happens. The buses that we have now do not have the seatbelts on them. What responsibility is that gonna be if that comes down as a state law that all our buses now are gonna have seatbelts? Because we have so many.
What we understand they're proposing is any new buses bought after a certain day,
Okay.
forward. Now, that's a two-edged sword to go along with your question. It's going to change the capacity of these buses.
Exactly.
You go to seatbelts. So where it was rated this way before without seatbelts, it's going to be rated less with seatbelts. So whatever form it comes out of the legislature with, we would have to determine that. We're thinking somewhere around, it's probably going to cost us roughly $10,000 to $15,000 more a class. Is what our mechanics think.
From 3 to a seat to 2, when you talk about capacity.
Right. Okay.
The reason they're looking at not retrofitting them is because the older buses, when they were built, are rated a certain way and the floors are rated a certain way. And they're telling us that wouldn't support those seat belts and how they work. And then if you think about it, that would be true. I mean, you rated the bus this way and now you're changing it. So you're changing the scope of that bus and how it's designed and built. So I think that's why they're looking at this date going forward, whatever they come up with. So I don't think it's a retrofit. I think that's what they started out with. But as they gathered information, I think they realized that was going to be really hard to do.
And the thing that goes with that too, that's not going to be a requirement, well, it isn't a requirement in every state. So you're talking about a custom order, and I think it's every 6 to 7 months as far as lead time before you would even take delivery of those buses.
Anybody else have a comment about the building or the bid? All right, the budget. Anybody has a question about the budget itself, not the needs, because we're only accepting this tonight. Everybody's welcome to come back when we start, when the paper starts flying. But we're accepting it tonight, so if somebody has a question about the budget numbers, anything in the budget you want to ask about. Nobody. Sure, there's been a lot of information out there that I've been reading and all that stuff, and some of my colleagues in here have been posting about. Nobody has a question.
I have one small question. It's not sharing the cable TV, and those e-rates going to zero.
What happens there is, we were used to getting some money back from the phone companies. What they're doing now is instead of sending that to school districts, they're putting it all with schools and library division. And we have to apply to get that money. And basically what it says is if you apply with a project, it's basically 50 cents on the dollar. We put in 50 cents, they'll give us 50 cents. So you have to apply through certain rates and certain windows of dates to get in on a certain cycle of E-rates. But now we have to do all that through E-rate and the SLD division. So they're putting all the money with that group and asking for that, basically asking us to apply. But when we apply, we have to make a commitment. And if we can't make a commitment that year, it rolls to the next year until you make a financial commitment to get the money.
Making it a little bit more difficult to get the funds.
In a way, yes, but you have availability of more funds. So it's like if I spend $100,000, they'll give me $100,000. So you get a $200,000 project for half off, basically.
One-to-one match.
Yeah. So what happens is we pay our part through a contract, and then the vendor would send their bill for their 50% straight to SLD, and the SLD will pay them directly.
What would that apply to? Just broadband, or would it just be software? Or?
No, it can be cabling, it can be servers, switches, bandwidth. I mean, there's a lot of things it can be. It's just depending on what level you go to and the severity of the audits you want if you get out there in a gray area, because they will come in and audit you very strictly.
Is there a max on that?
Not really. It's basically up to it's up to what you can do for that particular project. And we're looking at that, and as we are able to come up with some money, we're applying to get it, and then use that money to help improve a school, whether it's cabling, access points, or anything like that. That's what we're doing.
But Dan, that's a good question, because the limitation, particularly for some of the smaller districts, coming up with matching funds. So it takes, and that's an issue that if you will pay attention to some of the journals that you're talking about, it takes up many of them out of the ballgame.
Finance director and I were speaking about that last week. We had a discussion along these lines, so.
I have a question.
Question about the budget?
Yes. Versus last year, your new budget, how much increase per student, for example, is it, I think you mentioned earlier, is almost 10,000 per student? Is that for the new budget? No, for us, for Wilson County.
We're sitting, the state average as far as the per pupil allocation is $9,900. Wilson County, as far as posted by the state, is $8,300.
Is that the new budget, or is that the previous budget?
It would be the previous, it's always a lagging year. Am I wrong on that, or?
The increase in this budget from last year's budget is 6.6 million, and that's coming from the state, 4.4. You got 1.9 million in growth in property tax and 700,000 growth in sales tax.
So per student, then?
If you'll take that
around the
number,
same?
if you'll take that number as far as attendance last year, our enrollment last year was around 18.4. Right now, we're up 400 or 500 kids based from what we just got this week from our attendance people. So we're going to bump to 18.7, 18.8, might even hit 19,000, depending on what happens in the next 2 weeks.
And the calculation of what you're getting at, Mr. Gentry, as far as you look at your general.
The total
purpose
budget divided by
your-
19,000. Okay, great, thank you.
Any more questions?
Bush had one.
Mickey, thank you. Back on page 4, correct me if I'm wrong, teacher salaries, you indicated on average, there was about a 2% increase in the budget.
That's
Yeah,
2% more salary dollars in the budget for teachers.
Say again?
2% more salary dollars compared to 17, 18.
Right, and that came from BEP.
Now, that's also has our growth on the property tax in it as well.
So it's BEP and everything that you have available to you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What's the range of, so what, about, is that 1,100 teachers or 1,400 teachers?
Well, what'll happen is, if there's a level 5 teacher in their observation scores, they're going to get a $1,180 increase next year.
And that,
Or, well, let me say this year, I'm sorry, I'm not used to being in this year yet. If they're a level 4 on an observation score, they're going to get $980. If they're in level,
what does that work out?
82% of our teachers are a level 4 or 5.
So they will get a 4 or 5% increase.
Break it out and see. And then
well, it depends on if I'm a level 5 and I'm a $45,000 position or I'm a $55,000 position, the percentage is different.
Everybody talks in terms of percentages, so,
Yeah, that's why I said overall, it's a 2% more dollars for classroom teacher salaries in the 18-19 budget compared to that budget.
no, I understand that. The average, I mean, the averages is fine. But so some teachers will get a 1% raise, and other teachers will get a 5% raise. I'm not talking about absolute dollars, it's just a percentage. Is that a fair observation, or am I?
I don't know if it's as high as 5%. I'd have to do some calculations on that. I don't know if it's that high, but overall, it's a 2% average increase.
So you think the highest is certainly will not exceed 5%,
I don't think so.
4%?
It'd be, well, yeah, for a 2% average, you're probably gonna get close to 4 to a brand-new teacher coming straight out of school.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
If there are no more questions, I'd like to recommend to approve the general purpose school fund fiscal year 2019 budget presented along with the general purpose school fund keeping its normal property tax growth money for fiscal year 2019 and recording the budget on the budget.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same like sign. Question?
No, we just had a motion and a second to receive it.
Okay, I'm sorry. We made a recommendation to forward it on to the budget committee. I think there's a second motion that we'd like to recommend. A second motion.
Yeah, I seconded it.
So your first one was a recommendation, is that right, Ms. Sonia, from the Education Committee? And you got it passed, Commissioner Stafford got that one passed, and Mayor Jennings, you got that one for the record?
That is just for the
Okay.
general purpose school fund.
Okay, now you have another one, you said?
We have I'd like to make a motion to raise, motion to approve 4% raise for the classroom teachers on top of what is already in the school budget. And, I'd like to pass it on, subject to the recommendation. I'd like to pass it on to the budget committee, subject to, them being able to find money without a property tax increase. So if you understood, motion to approve 4% raise for classroom teachers on top of what they already receive at the school system, subject to the budget committee finding the money without a property tax increase. I'd like to make that in the form of a motion, if I could get a second.
Second.
All those in favor on the education committee, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same like sign. Any questions?
I guess we just need a motion to accept all this stuff, the bids, the.
My only question is, is there a quorum? I assume there is a quorum. Okay, I just wanted to verify.
Five. There's five.
Those that are
Want
on
that
the
in the minutes?
education committee, for note of people in the room, present is Ms. Sonia, Ms. Becky, Mr. Terry, Jerry McFarland, and myself. Absent is Jeff and Chad. So we do have a quorum.
Now, Madam Chairman, are we gonna go talk about needs
No, I think we're gonna, no. At this point, we're just making recommendations to forward it on to the budget committee.
They hadn't done anything with needs other than.
I think for education, you would have to just pass needs on to the budget
Right,
committee
we
to
just
go
have
with
to
the other
make a
needs.
recommendation to
So you would
pass
have to have a motion to do that.
Right.
Vote on the last one?
I'm sorry?
You vote on the last one?
No, yes, we did. I made I made a motion, I got a second, all in favor said aye, and opposed, no one said anything. All those in favor, I said aye. All those opposed, same like sign. So it's my understanding that motion passed unanimously.
I didn't hear anybody say no.
So both your resolutions passed, and now you need the last one that would just forward your needs on to the budget committee, please.
Correct, yes, sir.
You'll do that?
Make a motion to forward it on to the Budget Committee.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Mr. Justice?
We just need a motion to accept it all.
I do have minutes if you want to do that in your
I do.
committee, or
They
you
were
can
laying
wait.
on my desk after the fact, and I didn't realize that. We didn't make,
We can
didn't
wait.
make a motion to have our education minutes received too, because I just got those as well while we were here. I know we're doing it a little backwards, but we just got them.
Make a motion to approve the
Education.
education minutes.
Need a second? All those in
Motion to
favor?
approve.
Wait a minute, y'all going to,
I jumped ahead because the education
I
minutes.
just need to know what you said.
Oh, the education, Miss Becky just made a motion to accept the education minutes that were on our
That's the same as
desk.
approving them?
It is.
Same thing, approve and accept, however you wanna call it.
To approve.
I just, you know,
Approve.
you either modify or approve them, you know.
Approve.
Becky said
They're
approve.
not going any further than that.
No.
Approve them.
Okay. I'm sorry, I just
That's
didn't.
okay, no problem.
So you got to, and I know it's awkward because we normally in a small room by ourselves on a table, and it makes it a whole lot easier instead of having it all spread out here. But so we got a motion and a second on the approval of the minutes? And and everybody passed?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All
Okay.
same like sign.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Justice, if you want to do the,
Who's on what committee at this time too, of who's supposed to say what, but.
We got the minutes now. Anybody wants to scan through them real quick and make sure what you said is in there? Or hopefully they'll let you out.
make a motion to accept? Make a motion to approve, sorry. Took a while, but I thought it was worth it.
Approve. Got a motion to accept that amendment to approve. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Uh,
Any opposed? Now, we just need a motion to accept all the school budget.
Budget needs and bids.
Recommendation.
I make a motion to accept, okay?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Who seconded
Commissioner Justice?
that? Is that the motion, y'all were accepting everything that education sent you?
Yes.
Is any, I guess we need to open up the public conversation, limit it to like, what, 3 minutes?
If anyone at the public would like to speak at this time on to the Budget Committee or the Education Committee, you're welcome to step forward and state your name and address for the record, and if anyone here is wishing to speak. Mr. Phil, if you will, just pull that podium over and see if that mic is live.
Hello? Am I live? Oh, there I am. Thank you, sir. Okay. My name's Phil Jack, J-C-K, 1018 Dickens Drive, Mount Juliet. I think the school board is presenting an outrageous price for this new high school. And it still won't be enough to cover all the costs to complete this project. The existing county road system around this site cannot handle the impact of the size of this high school. Is the Wilson County Road Commission financially prepared or responsible to add speed tables and the widening of the county roads for the safety of the community and also for safe students? A TIS, which is Traffic Impact Study, has not been done or has not been presented. We've asked for it for over a year. I would ask that the school board provide that. The cost of a current geological study of the complete property has not been included in the cost of this school. The 7 acres that were done on the geological study was only 7 acres, and it was done years ago. And then let's get to this one point. As most of you know, a GPR of the historic cemetery site has not been done. GPR is going vertical. That means it's going radar in the ground. GPS goes horizontal. When you use the combination like they did at the Nashville Zoo, at Greer Stadium, then you get accuracy as to where this slave cemetery or this Indian cemetery or this Civil War cemetery actually is. The site plans have moved the school several times. The school board has told the news media and the TDEC that they're not going to disturb it at times when it was not even accurate on the map. If you don't get it accurate, you cannot guarantee you will not disturb it. So we're asking that you spend a few $1,000s and get it right for a $110 million school. 107, keep bringing it down, whatever, right? The GPS that was used twice was a handheld GPS, and both times just using the GPS, the cemetery got wider and the football stadium got moved. If the cemetery gets any wider, it's important because that football stadium won't fit on that property. The school board talks about the urgency of signing these contracts now due to international tariffs. Well, that's like signing a contract to buy 2 years' worth of gas for your vehicle today because the price may go up later. So I believe the school board is turning in homework that's not complete. Please don't ask the taxpayers to pay $106 million for a school that will be landlocked when there are other properties that have become available and will become available nearby that won't require millions of dollars of fill dirt. There's still time, time to reconsider where you're putting this school. We talked about student safety. What about student safety on the roads, getting to the school, not just while they're on the property? Thank you for your time.
Anyone else?
Bill Spicer, 1014 Dickens Drive. I'm adjacent to the property. It will be in my backyard. Do we need schools? We need schools. We need another school. The problem, I think Phil expressed it legitimately, is prior to this site, there were 3 sites, I think, that had been presented that were considered. And then we were told in this meeting they had an RFP. Well, when you look at the RFP and they said they were transparent, and I actually did go to the site and look at the documents. When you read the survey, it's self-reporting. It's made by Civil Site engineers, and Civil Site and Cypress, who the property was owned by prior to its purchase, were already collaborating together to try to put other things into that same piece of land. When the surveying was requested, if you read the document that's online, the survey says by the person who did the survey that it was an incomplete survey and it required the GPR. I haven't seen anything that's been done to identify clearly, truly, fully the cemetery. The traffic study. All you have to do is look at taking North Green Hill to from 6 lanes off of Lebanon Road to 2, 4/10 of a mile in. That is not serving the community, period. It says on the website for Wilson County Schools, excellence in all that we do. These inconsistencies are not excellent. They should be done. The I's should be dotted, the T's should be crossed. This is a legacy building for this county with our dollars and the impact it has to the people coming in. That northwest corridor is a state route. It can't be widened anymore. And you already have high traffic volumes on it. There are already retail properties zoned in that area to go in. They've just been sitting and waiting. You're adding more traffic. And there is not a traffic impact study. None, zero. Every time, to Phil's point, they have to readjust the site. I can tell you that Civil Site can't keep up with the changes they've made. They don't know what they've made. In the city of Mount Juliet meetings, they couldn't tell you, I don't remember. Well, this should have been a priority, right? I would know everything. That's not excellence. Quite frankly, they had to take, if it was such a perfect site, why did so many exceptions have to be filed for with the city? To zoning, to lighting, to the size of the building, the height of the building. And then we don't have traffic impact studies to validate what they put in as the routing of it. Who said how to route it and when to route it and how it's going to improve the impact? Not a third party, not an independent third party. And maybe it's a great site. They've already bought the land, I got it. So it would be a really great site since they're integrating WA Wright to make it probably a world-class middle school, elementary school, vocational school complex that doesn't require the impact that all the sports fields and athletic facilities that are required, nor the kids traveling to it because it would be more buses rather than students driving. In the city council meeting, it was acquiesced that even though the Mount Juliet High School property or patterns for traffic were supposed to be routed a certain way, they're not being followed. That's inconsistent. And then what scares me the most is you've got these RFP with submittals for the construction costs of this, and they're selecting the cheapest one. Well, anybody knows that choosing the least expensive submittal is a recipe for failure, because there are going to be more costs. And it's not accounting for all the things that are going in. This is a legacy decision, and it should not be taken lightly with all the T's crossed and the I's dotted. Thank you.
Anybody have any other questions about the budget? Anything that was discussed about the budget here tonight?
Hi, my name is Leah Jack, 1018 Dickens Drive, and I appreciate your comment about the budget. Yes, I have concerns about the budget. I could reiterate some of what's already been said about our concerns that the school board has not listened to or addressed many of our concerns. I'm here to talk to you about cost. What's the cost of building this new school? We've been given an estimated building cost of $106 million. I submit to you that it's going to be far more expensive than that. The land is terrible. There are 3 streams on the property, 2 are blue line streams, and then that doesn't even account for all of the wet weather springs that bubble up out of the ground when you have a heavy, heavy rain. We've had heavy rains recently. I know what happens when it rains heavily in that general area because my backyard becomes a bog. What's the cost to me as a homeowner adjacent to that property when the tableau is built up for the fields and the water runs off? Sure, some of it may run into your retention pond that you've planned, but not all of it. The land currently is absorbing a lot of that, not all of it, because I get it in my yard. But what's going to happen when you build that land up and the water comes trickling into my property? I've already been told that it becomes a TDEC issue. And by the way, I will be reaching out to TDEC. I have contacts there, and they will know about my concerns about the blue line streams and the water on the property. The topography of the property is another issue. It's terribly, it has big holes and rock outcroppings, and estimate was given of $4 million in fill dirt. $4 million in fill dirt. Is that a cost-effective way to build a school? It is not the right property. I don't appreciate that those considerations have not been made. Hi, by the way. Good to see you. I also want to talk about the cost of the general quality of life for the neighbors who live in that area. The cost is going to be terrific in terms of events that are happening at the school. What happens now in Stone Hollow when the Mount Juliet High School events overflow the parking lots, they park on Stone Hollow streets. No assurance has been given to us that any gates or any property management would happen in the event that people park on our street. It's one way in and out on the street that I live on, and we're serviced by the county. We don't have the luxury of voting for Mount Juliet City Commissioners, but I'm here addressing our county commissioners because you are my representation, and that's why I want you to hear and understand the cost of building this high school at the proposed $106 million price tag, which will go up. It will assuredly go up. I was told by Dr. Wright that they have experts looking at everything, and I'm sure they do, but there are unknowns on that property that I don't believe they've taken into account, and I don't frankly trust the experts when they have to keep changing things over and over again because of the concerns that we've brought up and addressed. They haven't adequately completed their homework, as has been earlier stated, and this is not in our best interest as a county to build this particular school, to pass this particular budget, Mr. Justice, for this high school at this time. I believe there are other properties, other opportunities that would be better suited. Thank you very much.
Just to address you real quick, the county commission doesn't select property sites.
I understand.
We don't do any of that.
I understand.
Just because you directly, so
Sure.
we fund it or don't fund it.
And I'm asking you not to fund it.
I've been here quite a long time as far as my family's concerned, but, we go through this every time, and I get that there's pros and cons, but I have never seen a project that has been more misinterpreted, especially on social media, as far as not getting the facts.
I would agree with that statement.
Tonight what happened is what you got was the facts. You got to see a presentation, and they gave you the facts. And the way the county commission funds is up to a certain amount. So if that is $107 million, if the county commission agrees to fund it, it's up to a certain amount of money. They can't spend it unless they have it.
Well, I respectfully disagree with your fact statement because the facts as we know it are far different from what has been presented. They've been changed time and time again. But I would respectfully request that you not approve this budget for this particular project at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing no one, we will close public comment period. I'll go back to my two chairmen. It would be up to you to close out your committees at this time.
Make a motion that we adjourn education.
I just asked the mayor if you would cover the dates again, if anybody wants to be present for the needs hearings, the needs assessments.
Okay. Can I get an all in favor on the education committee closing out first? Aye. Okay. Now, on budget, and Aaron, I don't know if you have anything that you want to say. You can when I get through. If you have anything, if not, that's okay. Just so we'll know, everybody will be back here on Thursday night at 5 o'clock. And we will listen to Mr. Maynard give us an overview of our growth money our budgets as they exist, all the needs that we have at that time. Ashley McAnulty will be back as well at that time to talk about the options on funding, along with Aaron, the new school as we know it. Once we finish that, then we'll come back on August the 6th is actually when we'll start deliberating. That's a Monday night, and we'll go to the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th if we need to finish out our budget. That is, complete our budget, approve the needs per growth money, and then your next steps on schools, whatever that you choose to be. And then we'll be ready for a public hearing for this committee, for our budget on August the 20th at 6 p.m. in this conference room here. Aaron, anything you want to add? Okay.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Thank y'all for being here tonight.